Yeah.
the mail.
I may have.
We had one. Here.
I just didn't see it on the agenda, so I assume we didn't.
Yeah.
Review minutes on number 3. I had one comment on the minutes. Page 3 or 4 at the top, it says F dot, Department of Transportation. If I misspoke or just or whatever, but it should be FWC.
Okay.
There you go.
Right one? It's not?
Wednesday, December. Page 3. What's your page 3 look like?
This is good.
I have a copy if anybody
It's
needs.
like a weird. Page 3 is not the same, page 3.
This one looks a little kind of rougher, like.
That's like a, yeah, that's weird.
Huh.
Maybe it is page 3, but it's not the same font.
Yours more current than mine?
I don't know. This is the same, this is the one Chad had. He said at the top of page 3, this is FDOT should be Florida.
This one has FWC. G, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, Chad, so one has FWC and one has FDOT.
Really? Interesting.
Well, FWC is at the beginning of right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's on page 2, but on
Right
page
here.
3,
Yeah, see, his is like this one. Page 3 has it as FDOT. Here.
so if y'all can make a motion if you feel it needs to be changed.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of Wednesday, December 11th with the correction on section G, manatees, that instead of F dot Florida Department of Transportation, it says FWC, the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Also, the clerk just informed me the front end of the meeting got cut off, so if we can have a call to order and a roll call real quick.
All right, I'll call to order a meeting of the Marine Resources Task Force again. Roll call, this is Bill Veach.
Mary Rose Spalletta.
Shannon Mapes.
Gregory Holmes.
Just do it again, Shannon, because your light wasn't on.
Shannon Mapes.
All right. All right. So public comment?
And other members excused, not excused.
Okay. Justin's still on the books, right?
This would be his third unexcused if you felt so. I have
Okay.
not heard from him. I don't know if any of you have heard from him.
Okay, then as far as the roll call, let's call him unexcused. Steve is imminent. He said he's coming. So let's hold off on him.
In traffic.
Yeah. I will put down for later. We'll talk about Justin. We had to be in our best behavior because we have a gentleman here who's considering signing up, so. Okay, now so any public comment? Then let's rearrange some of these items a little bit because I don't want to do the bags without Steve. So let's go to water quality. You want to talk about option 6?
Sure. Here he comes. Good.
So for the record, Steve Johnson is in the building.
Thank you.
And just as a refresher, option 6 is something that Mary Rose brought to us. It's is a kind of a comprehensive Everglade restoration plan.
All right, what we have here is an option, or one of the possible ways to deal with the polluted water coming down from Lake Okeechobee. If you look at the maps on the left, just shows you what you already know, how the Lake Old water either goes east into the Atlantic or it comes west to us, and in so doing brings a lot of the pollutants and contaminants that cause our algae growths and such. If you look on the right, the proposal is that much of the water from Lake Okeechobee, when it needs to be released, can be made to go south, where it will nourish all of the Glades lands and do all kinds of great things that you see on the second page there. It stops the polluted discharges and all of those other positive things. But the beauty part about it is that the land that's needed, the land that has to be acquired to make this possible is what is included in the Plan 6 flowway. And it's my understanding that it would require about 50,000 acres of the 700,000 acres in the Everglades agricultural area. That's about 7%. The new acreage would be tied to lands already in public hands, and it would form the Plan 6 flowway. Now, the thing to remember is that most of the lands are already in public hands, 2/3 of them. The remaining 1/3 that we're talking about to make this viable is potentially available under a state option to purchase the lands from the U.S. Sugar Corporation. It seems that the resistance is coming primarily from industry lobbyists and allied and other political forces. So what I'm thinking is that in any way we can, we should let our legislators know that we think this is a good idea, and that the monies to purchase, theoretically, we already have. They were accrued by Amendment 1, which the voters approved in 2014. So the monies are there. But what has to happen is the legislature has to agree that they want to do this. They have to get the Big Sugar to agree to either donate or sell these extra 50,000 acres. And if they don't do this, we will still have the problem of the water going east and west instead of going south. So if you read through this, I'd like to know, I don't know all of the specifics about exactly what the prices are or exactly who owns exactly every square inch. But it's my understanding that this Plan 6 is one of the ones that the Corps has presented. It is an option that is out there, but it's just that it hasn't been moved to the forefront. It hasn't been picked as the one that the legislature wants to push. And I think that we should do whatever we can to promote this. So if you look at your papers, if you have any questions, I don't know that I can answer them, but I would try.
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
If they're unwilling to sell, what would possibly?
Eminent domain. The legislature just has to decide that they are going to take it. They can decide what price they're willing to pay for it, and they can do it
They can do it for the sake of,
for the sake of the betterment of
okay.
everyone.
I was just gonna say, what would motivate them to sell if it didn't, that seems like a last resort, to do that. But I was wondering
Right.
And I don't think eminent domain is used very much in Florida. I mean, other states it's used a lot more, I think. But it would certainly qualify as like an infrastructure project.
well, is there
Or maybe
any-
they can just offer them a very high price.
Well, I think usually they do a fair
Right.
market price.
Yeah.
Well, apparently money's not the issue, because you said that money is
It's
available.
my understanding the money is there. Now, I don't know in fact that it is, but that's what my understanding is. We voted that money in, it's still there, it's sitting there. It needs to be used.
So is there a plan besides, I mean, for Plan 6, is there a plan?
To implement it.
Right.
No, the
Because-
legislature would have to decide that this is something that they want to do.
So we need to just encourage our legislature?
That's what I would say, yes. We need to encourage our legislatures. Now, whether we want to do that individually, or if we want to do that as a committee, if we want to do it as a town, I'm reluctant to get into speaking to a big group about this, because I really don't know all the particulars, just like you asked me. It's just that I happened upon this information, and it just seems like the best long-term solution to our polluted water that I've come across.
It's interesting that you say, well,
Yeah.
River of Grass, because that movie that came out last year that was talking about the blue-green algae and the problem, that's what it used to be, was a big river of grass.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
And this would return a good portion of it to that.
Now, I've seen a lot of the proposals that they're working on now, and they, they're of course a lot simpler than this drawing is. I mean, sorry, this is a lot simpler than the other plans are.
Right.
There's storage, and then there's filter marshes, because you're not allowed to send the polluted water into the Everglades. You've got to filter it before you let it go.
Right.
And I assume this drawing looks simple, that it starts out with a storage element, and then that public lands is a big filter marsh.
And see, that's already owned. The only piece that isn't owned is what's up there, just up above where it says public lands, that missing link. It's only a tiny piece. All the rest of that is already public land. So it's a viable option, it would seem.
I don't know, I'm a little skeptical, just in the fact that from what I've seen, I didn't see that, in all the different maps and all the canals and the storage facilities and the filter marshes, I didn't see a huge hunk of contiguous public land in those plans.
What were you looking at, Bill? A different,
The ones
Yeah.
when they came up with there was a recent one where they approved money for some reservoirs that are down at the south end, I think, of the Everglade agricultural area.
right?
And so the water goes down there in a canal, and then after that, they have a filter area, a smaller filter
Right.
area, and then they discharge it. But it was like scattered around. It wasn't like, I didn't see a big contiguous block of land there. I mean, this idea is like an ideal to me.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how realistic it is, given not just the resistance of sugar or the political will to eminent domain that land, but also the public land entity, if there's really a contiguous block like that.
No, I can't answer that. All I can say is that this was presented by Ray Judah, who has been following this situation for, I would guess, 20 years.
Yeah.
And seems to know all of the ins and outs and can answer all of your questions. Now, he has offered to come and talk to us or any group that we might gather if we feel that we want to do that. The Matanzas Past Preserve Friends are the ones who invited Mr. Judah, and he presented this. That's where I saw it. And recognizing that he does have political connections, I can understand that there are questions. Nevertheless, it seemed like something that I feel I had to share with you.
Okay, well, I guess,
If you would like me to get more information, I can try and do that.
or we can invite him in to talk. We can decide that at this
Right.
meeting if we want to come in the next meeting. And I'm all for that, personally. I mean, more information the better, because I think we all have questions, and if he's proposed this or he presented this, then he probably has answers.
He knows, as the problem is that he will give us 30 minutes of history. Of course, I guess if we ask him not to, he won't, but he will, he will take up as much time as we give him.
Now, do you have you communicate with him at all, or just yourself?
Yes,
as president?
I can email him.
Okay. So, okay, then I'll make a motion that we invite Ray Gita to come give us a short presentation on Plan 6 at the next meeting on February something.
Who will invite him? Chad, will you invite him, or me, or?
Let me just finish the motion here first.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to continue the motion to invite Ray Gita to come to the MRF meeting on February 12th at 3 o'clock to give us a short overview of his Plan 6. Or if he can't make it, if he could send somebody who understands the plan.
I'll second that.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Nothing with that. I don't think we need to probably talk about it anymore.
Okay, good.
Okay, so let's go back up to reusable bags. Steve, last count was still 3.
We have 3 spaces open of the 16. So that's about as much of an update as I can.
Who do
give
we
you.
have? Who do we have? Who are the,
Right now, the current pledges that we've received are from Margaritaville Resort, who have purchased 4. Sky's Restaurant has purchased 1. Lonnie Kai has purchased 2. Tri-Power Vacation Rentals has purchased 1. St. Peter Lutheran Church 1. Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce 1. The Islander 1. Turtle Time Inc. 1. Good Times Charters 1. I'd follow up by saying now that the holidays are over, it might be a little easier to run out and find a few people, I think. I think there's more than 3 folks out there that we haven't even approached that would be more than willing to do it. It's just a matter of getting out there and finishing it up.
Yeah, I went and talked to Publix.
We did, okay.
And I think what happened is, probably they were all for it. But then they said, oh, here's the process. You have to first be registered with them, and it can't be me. It had to be a town employee. And I passed that on to Chad. Have you done anything with that, Chad?
No, sir. Not
Okay.
yet.
That's a lot to get a pledge. It's tough enough, I think.
It's, but I understand why they do it, I guess.
Sure.
Just someone doesn't come down and say, I represent Florida, would you give me money?
Sure, right. Right.
But Chad, if you can, you still have the information I sent you?
I do.
Okay. If we could do that, that'd be great, just to get that, see if we can get that going in the short term here.
I'll speak with the manager.
Well, Bill, one other item here. Chad, I sent you an email about how we can produce invoices of some time, or in order to collect the pledges from the sponsors. And I haven't heard back from you on what's the best approach to do that.
I'll speak with finance to see how they've done it in years past. Y'all have done this in years past? This is the first year. Okay, so I'll need to speak with finance and see what the process is. It wasn't something we could do in the 11th hour of 2019, though.
Right. Well, I'm just wondering how we can do it. Can we? No, I'll let the town. The alternative would be to come up with just a pledge sponsorship sheet that says, you owe us $6.95 for pledge sponsorship.
I'm sure the town can.
They need a piece of paper for their records.
I'm not sure the town can generate invoices, but it has to be a way that they know they're not paying for a service, that they're paying for something that's deductible. So I think you probably need to bounce that off the finance people.
Like me to speak to him?
No,
Oh,
Chad.
Chad, yeah.
Keep it within the town. Let's keep it inside the town there.
Yeah, we've got 3 more, so the question was, is do we start the process now, or do we start, after we sell the 3rd spot remaining? Which I think is the conclusion. They'd like to probably do it all at one time.
Yep, I will speak with finance.
Okay.
Oh, and Janine is no longer with Fishtail Marina. I went in there and asked for her, and they kind of stared at me.
Ah,
Steve, which slot was sold? 5, 9, 12, or 13?
5 and 9 are still available, 15 is still available, so the rest are sold.
5, 9, and 15, okay.
5, 9, and 15, right.
I don't think like Good Time Charger really specified a spot, or I don't think, did Turtle Time?
Yeah, actually. There's still a corner available, so that was the choice there. Good Times, I just assigned him one,
All right.
as I did, I think, with Tri-Power.
Yeah, the sheet is still waiting for me to pick up at the marina there, so I just
Okay.
got there.
Well, I'm thinking if we want to split this up, I'm right across from Pinchers. I'll go talk to them and see if I can sell them a slot. And what other of the big buildings on the beach, or somebody should go to Diamond Head?
Of course, yeah. I mean, we just haven't revisited a lot of those places. We went by the first time. That's what this represents, the people that we visited, as well as those that had expressed interest at the chamber. Is it weekly lunch, monthly lunch?
Monthly.
Monthly lunch, yeah. So I don't know. if
Did you
we-
go to that? And
Last year, when
Last
when we
year.
were
Twice.
promoting twice with Shannon. She worked it with me.
but those aren't really businesses. Those are condos, right?
No, those are businesses.
all
Are they
Yeah, it's the
businesses?
Chamber of Commerce,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's just a matter of final push. I mean, Bill, you and I went out and had 3 last time, so in maybe 3 hours. So
Yeah, and like unfortunately, I'm leaving tomorrow morning, so I'm not around for like the next
yeah,
week.
yeah.
or so.
Well, I mean, the reason I lean on you is your contacts. I mean, you've obviously know a lot of folks, a lot more than I do, anyway.
I know this is a very impressive list. These are all people you've contacted before. It's just a matter of maybe,
Right. Just
Reaching out a little
actually,
more.
well, the other thing is I had all their email addresses, so I actually have contacted them a couple times with email communications. So haven't gotten a hit that way. So I sort of feel like this list is a bit dead. There's one outstanding. Shannon said that Amy.
Yes, she didn't get back with you?
No.
Okay, I can go by there again. I haven't caught her in there. Been there 3 times, she hasn't been in.
I've been there once too and gave her a sheet, and she wasn't there.
Yeah, I gave her the,
So
yeah.
I'm
I
getting-
gave her Steve's, I gave her your name, email, and phone number, because I said you had you knew which spaces, because
Well, I know her. I mean, actually
Yeah.
from the street, but I don't know if she really knows my name even. So we know each other by face. But when she's out jogging, she'll stop and talk. So
and I left a sheet at Fishtail Marina for Al Durrett, but I haven't heard back. He's kind of tricky to get in the office. I think kind of could be lucky.
yeah, well, like I said, it's a new year. All our company's gone, so I can get back to work.
All right, well, let's get the thing pushed through. When I come back, Steve, I'll reach out to you and see where we are.
All right.
When you can,
Expect big results.
yep,
How
that's
long,
it.
how long will you be gone?
A week.
Okay, I should do that. Probably will, actually. One good day, I'm sure I can find
Yeah.
3 people.
All right. And I still have some of those bags if someone wants some to give away. I still have a couple, so. Does anybody else still have
Oh,
bags?
one other thing, actually, while I have it there, I did receive a telephone call, now that you mention it, from one Drusella Nepley. And she's no longer a resident, but she lives in Fort Myers, and she thought she'd ask me to share some things with you. So first of all, that the front of the bag with the town's logo and the message there, that's a supreme valuable message. And she feels we need to rebrand the beach as a plastic-free paradise, keep the paragraph and the town emblem. And the cartoon side is okay, but we should rework it to make more room for sponsors there, and as well as in the front, so we can share that with the original message. So I told her that I'm not an individual, I'm part of a group, and I'd bring it to the group and see if you guys want to reformat the bags based on
well, maybe next time we can
her recommendations.
flip it up next time, get some more input and,
I'll move it to a vote. Actually, I'll make a,
You know, for only $11,120, you can do that.
Make your own bag.
okay, yeah. Maybe I should have told her that.
3,000 of them.
But I felt it my duty to bring that to the group.
Okay,
So,
Feedback is good. Maybe the next round we can, you know,
yeah, I think this is too far along, and obviously
Yeah.
we need to move forward with
I don't know
our
if you're
last
willing to
three
make any
spots,
kind of
and-
vote on it, because, you know, like, yeah, we've kind of
pretty
promised a lot of
set.
people what we were doing, and so to change it around now would be tricky, but,
Agreed. Next.
Well, as long as we're on bags, I went to Publix about 2 weeks ago on a Saturday, and poof, you can give away bags there in no time. Just stand there and ask people if they'll reuse it, and most people are thrilled, absolutely thrilled to get a bag like that. So,
I saw a couple walking with plastic bags from Publix. This has been pretty common the last couple weeks down the beach. And I went home on my bike and got one of our bags and traded him 3 plastic bags for one cotton
you would
bag.
do that.
But you know, the thing is, a lot of people too, and I know a lot of people who travel, they have them at home, they just don't take them traveling with them.
exactly.
That's pretty
Right.
common. But I think, you know, you do go to Publix for giving away to mostly tourists, probably.
Yeah, there are a few familiar faces there, but most of them already have a bag. Either they've gotten it at church or they've gotten it from some organization they volunteer with.
All right. Okay, anything more with the bags?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, manatees. Now, just to remind everybody, this is brought to us because of the kind of extraordinary number of manatee deaths that are going on, and a lot in our area. I was told there was a couple more in the Buccaneer Bay area. I went back in the Buccaneer Bay, and it doesn't seem like people go very fast back in there. I mean, from what I understand, it's not a wakeless area, but yeah, there's not a lot of room, really. I mean, people may still do it.
It's shallow. Yeah.
But I think we left it last time. The options we have there is to come up with a sticker and signs and things from other, you know, either existing organizations or make our own. I got a thing from Bruce Butcher, the town councilor, about that he was in contact with the same people I were, the Save the Manatees
Right.
Club. And they do have stuff, and they're usually, no matter what you ask them, they kind of say, well, we'll send you some signs. So,
Do you think the boat rental people have a place on their boat where an additional thing would be easily visible and it's not going to get in the way of the controls, or?
Well, the see-through sticker on the windshield thing was, talk about that? Like a,
Is that what we want?
and you can see it.
Then you can see it,
Yeah.
and there's no restrictions for visibility or anything like that.
We discussed a
not all
sticker,
down
but it
windshield.
wasn't for the, I don't think it was for the, you know, the windscreen. It was more for a console, someplace on the console that you
I put
could.
it on the top console, because not all of them have windshields.
You put it
Right,
on the
those are
council.
all,
Do
Do you think there's
phones.
room for how big a one, Greg?
Oh, it's just like a regular sticker.
A regular sticker?
I think the smaller, the more
Because they all
places you
have a
put 'em.
great big sign, you know, where you rental, big thing on the manatees. I walked at them all, they got big signs about slow down manatees. Moss does, Pink Shell does, Salty Sam does, they're very aware of this.
But are the
putting it on
renters
boat
aware of
As a
it?
driver, you know, because I'm going to manatees this weekend, you know, and we rent pontoon, and they really have stickers. Maybe I'll see if I can get some of those, what they hand out, because they're all over the place, you know, in the channel. You can't, I mean, you're going to hit one, there's no question about it, but you just want to bump them. Because they just sit there and they don't pay attention, and all of a sudden you see a little hump come up, and you're like, that's why you go really slow. There'll be a little bump, and then they go away.
One thing I'd like to bring up also, I mean, it's sort of on this subject, but did you know they lifted the no wake along the fishtail, you know, that no wake area on the canals you're heading to Big Carlos? Let's say you're heading from the north in Estero Bay and you're heading back to, let's say, go out Big Carlos. There's a no wake zone usually that starts at just about where the canal going to Fishtail is to the end.
I think Austin knows about this.
Do you know about that, Austin? The no wake zone was lifted? Oh.
You can try this one over here.
Working? Austin Gilchrist, Town Fort Myers Beach Harbor Master. Yeah, we're aware of the no wake zones that's been lifted in the area. It is pretty much a countywide thing. What's going on is the no wake zones are out of compliance with the state legislation, so they are not applicable in those areas there. We do have a process that goes through where we can apply for no wake zones for certain areas, but the areas that have been questioned are not applicable for the no wake signs in those areas.
So where are they specifically?
As far as,
The ones that have been lifted, that were ruled not applicable?
well, let's just go backwards with that. So the ones that are applicable are going to be 500 feet within public fueling or public docking, or 500 feet within any fendered bridge. And then within any canal, I believe it's 75 foot or less, which I don't think anything that we have, it falls under that category.
So all the channel, all the main channel now that is now wakeless is,
It's slow zones.
okay.
So you can't be up on plane or anything like that. You can produce minimal wake, but as far as no wake goes, that's just for around, like I said, the bridges and the public areas there.
Can you tell us what area, is it just that area down by Fishtail that is, they've removed the no wake signs? So it's still no wake literally
Yeah, well,
from
it's-
Bowditch all the way down to, actually my canal.
Yeah, it's island-wide, pretty much. They've removed all of them, except for the areas that I've covered. So it's just not that area. There are condos associations getting together with the Department of Natural Resources right now and trying to get meetings together to try to re-implement a no-wake zone in that area. So things are getting done to work on it at this time, but right now, we haven't applied or anything like that for it.
So is this gone from no wake to slow zone? So it's gone from no wake to minimal wake, or is it gone from?
It's just minimal wake, yeah, slow zone area there.
Okay.
Oh, no wake, there's no wake, and then there's run, you can run, right?
No, there's a manatee zone, which is classified as slow zones.
Okay.
And that's what, I believe that falls under the category back there. All right?
Yeah, I can email y'all a current map that zones out everything.
Yeah, that'd be great if you would. So I was screaming at people. I found out later it's been removed.
Well, I mean, there isn't that much of a difference between wakeless and minimal wake.
See, I don't understand that differentiation. It's either, I mean, maybe Greg can help. He's a nautical guy, right? But you've got a no wake area, which is a slow zone. Same thing, correct?
No wake is no wake.
Okay.
Isn't that a slow?
But name a slow zone around here that you can think of,
It's minimal wake.
and that's different than slow zone.
You're pretty
A
much
slow zone is
pretty
your,
much just idle in the next bump. You're going
So,
really,
but
yeah,
what
you
area?
can't- You're not creating
So
any wake.
from Bowditch all the
Not
way down
creating- yeah.
to, let's say, Snookbite Marina, that whole area is, what would you call that?
Well, down towards Baldur's, that's all minimal wake. You have to go, minimal wake. And when you get to the bridge, no wake. Back there's pretty much all no wake. Once you get on their side.
So north of the bridge, you're saying, is what's considered minimal wake, and then south of the bridge down to where you can open up again, it's no wake. Yeah, so that's how it's been, I guess, yeah.
But as you see them coming from the other side, where Bowditch is back there that way, just as soon as you get past first marker, they're at 30 miles an hour flying right
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And I look at that and go, how can you do that? Because I charter fishing. They just do it, and there's no sign that says minimum or anything else. They just tromp it.
Yeah.
But they're going out at 5 in the morning. They don't
That's
care.
when I notice it, when I do
Oh,
water
they
testing.
fly. I mean, they're
They're
going
going
full
full
throttle.
speed and the
There's no,
kayak is
there's
like
no,
this.
yeah, there's nobody around.
But I know that.
They just want to get way
That's all
out
the
like
charter
this.
boats, so I'm talking about those guys, that path out. That is, you don't want to be around there in your kayak at sunrise. They
Well, I
go
guess they
flying.
want to go get out fishing and they want to get
Yeah.
way out, so
Well, they
they're
gotta go out
going,
50 to 100 miles out, because I do it with them, and yeah.
So it's before the sun
Yeah, they
gets
won't let
up
me
and
drive
they're,
boat in the beginning, because I won't go that, I go slow. So they wait till they get way out there, and they go, okay, you take over. But yeah, I mean, they fly there, and I don't know nothing stops them, they're in the channel, and they fly.
because there's no patrols right there. There's no patrols at that time.
Certainly, that's a manatee crossing area, there's no question about that.
Oh, yeah, sure.
No
Sure, and I've
question
seen
about
manatees
that.
down by Fishtail, so I don't understand that, actually.
When it comes to manatees, the education and enforcement, those are the two areas, and it sounds like enforcement is the stickler here. Like, we can agree on education, we'll slap a sticker on the boat, but
yeah.
enforcement,
But those aren't going to do anything for the private boaters who have their own boat.
right? Unless that's our education, I guess.
That would be us pushing, like the woman I talked to at FWC, we would have to push our local enforcement to go out at sunrise.
Well, you know, a lot of things that came back over and over again too was just reporting. So that if enough people report violations, then they'll go out and look at it.
Or if you get a video, she
Yeah.
said, you can get a video. You can identify who's doing it.
Yeah. Unless you're in the boat with them, then it's probably, you're not going to be invited out fishing next time.
Supposed to be going a little slower.
Okay, well, I'm trying to think of some action items we can have, except try to work on stickers. Let us know, Greg, what you find, what you've seen been done. Nice not to have to reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. We're not the only ones with manatees. Okay, anything more with manatees? Then let's move on to street lighting. And this is a pretty hot and current topic. There's some efforts in the last council meeting I went to that indicates that they'd like to get some lighting plan done during this current council, which is only another few months. Now, Steve, you're going to look into, was it cost of lighting to do?
Not cost, just the, you wanted to put together I don't know, a fact sheet or you actually called it, I think, a position paper for MRF. No, not cost. I mean, I'd love to get the costs. From where I'm at, this is where it should be, is the town staff is supposed to be looking for a cost structure for implementing amber LED lights. It was voted on 3-1 the same day that the consultant came and presented to the council. That time, Mayor Saracita was out on excused absence, and the council voted 3-1 that they wanted a second opinion. And also, they sort of remanded to town staff to pursue an option that included amber lighting. What are the costs? Is it part of the tariff program? Is it, what's involved? How many lights will there be? I mean, it's just pure speculation right now. So my understanding is that's where it should be at. But the latest council meeting, Councilman Butcher mentioned that it was somebody's fantasy that the lights, these 4,000 Kelvin LED white lights, were not turtle friendly. It was somebody's fantasy that it wasn't, and it's so wrong that I don't know which way to start. But I'm still of the opinion that we need to find out, suggest or recommend that we get that option for amber LED lighting. And find out are there costs. The FWC has said numerous times that it is part of the tariff program, which obviously would solve a lot of problems from a fiscal perspective. But
Sorry, say that again.
The FWC has said on numerous occasions that the CRE amber LED, RSW LED light is part of the FPL. I forgot the actual term for their tariff program, but it's part of the free lighting to reduce power consumption. So what I'm attempting to do personally is find out, is there a statement, is there something written, is there a program document that says this is what's included and this is what's not included? And that would start by, that would begin the process of answering questions. But I don't know where, the town manager really didn't give an update as to where it was at. I'm not sure where it's at, but I'm sure it's being worked on. But from my understanding is that's where it was last left. It's been brought up a number of times, but
Do you know anything about this lighting tariff program? what, have you seen a document that says what they'll pay for and,
No, sir.
Chelsea, have you seen anything? Everybody in town knows that that microphone doesn't work.
Chelsea O'Reilly, I'm the Public Works Director here for the town of Fort Myers Beach. I actually just sent out an email this morning to my contacts at FPL asking 3 questions. Number 1, is there a deadline or end date of the tariff, the free tariff program for the LED lights, regardless if they're amber or the white lights? The second was, does the amber Cree lights qualify under the tariff? And then the last question is, does any light 4,000 lumens or less qualify under that tariff? So I'm awaiting a response back, and then we'll follow up through the town manager, and he'll report back to town council.
Thank you.
So the questions,
Good.
yeah.
And when you do know, could you send me off I know.
Sure.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
See, another question too is, I mean, it is a county road, but the county is in the town jurisdiction. So it seems like if there is a cost, then the county ought to at least bear part of the cost. Hopefully that's-
The county has no responsibility for put any light on their streets.
And any street?
I think so.
So there's no like regulation saying that when you put a road in a certain kind of road that it's got to be illuminated in a certain way?
Have you driven through the middle of the state?
Well, you know, rural areas are one thing, but
There's no requirement.
Regardless of if
Have you
it's a
driven to
hurricane
the end of our
evacuation
island,
area
on the
too.
northwest end? There are no lights there. You get like one every 10 houses.
I'd like to reinforce also what's been brought up also, that it's one or the other. It's people or it's turtles, and I don't think that's the case at all. From my perspective, it's not safe for people with the the glare, certainly the physiological issues, and also the capillary. You're trying to think your eye response to the rich blue light, white light is makes a bigger case not to have to adjust for white LED lights with older communities. As well as at this point, I think Councilperson Champ has said that it's from a regulatory perspective they can't be used. So to pursue it doesn't seem to make sense.
I'll tell you what, I'll write something up for council, but I just want to make sure that we agree on the points that I should make, because I'm a little concerned with the timeliness of this, that if I wait until the next MRF meeting, then, the council seems, some in the council seem to be a little rushed to get this thing pushed through.
I think it would be a disaster if they put those white lights in. I know it would be a disaster. Whatever it takes to have people turn their minds to doing the right thing, we need to do it.
How long is turtle season? Is it 5 or 6 months?
6 months, May to October. Only half of the year. And actually, it's a little bit more because we've been starting earlier. We've been starting in the middle of April because the water's been warm and we've had females come in early. So officially, we don't start until May 1, but actually we begin in the middle of April. We don't ask people to remove their furniture or whatever until May 1, but we're out there. And the turtles come in.
Pardon me while I just write a couple of notes here. And, I don't, certainly with the combination of construction and lack of lighting, it can be pretty scary out there and sterile.
Dangerous, yes.
Okay, so here's a case I would make, because we already know that they agreed or at least wants to look at amber lights. We say we know that amber lights are higher cost. I think it got like 2 to 3 times the amount. That was just an estimate when they had the presentation in council. But amber lights are more effective for keeping your eyes adjusted to the light available, and we can leave them on continually for 12 months for complete coverage, so you don't get the blind spots that you're left on with the white lights. White lights, for 6 months of the year, some of the lights will have to be turned off because you need both the right color of lights and you need no direct source of light. You need both. It's not either or. And I know that some dark nights, it doesn't take much to get disorientation. During a full moon night, it may take somebody significant, but a dark, stormy night, sounds like Snoopy. Dark and stormy night, it doesn't take too much. The one thing the white has is they're cheaper, and there's a program now to put them in. And there may be, we really got to find out, there may be a program to pay at least all or some of the cost for the amber lights. And I think one other thing for the amber lights, and maybe this is a bit of a jump, is because I read through the criteria for being dark sky certified. And that's a bit more of a leap because the entire island has to be, not just Estero Boulevard. We have to go with these other lights. We might be a little densely populated for a dark sky program, but it's something else we can look at the requirements, because that would be a good promotional thing. I mean, from a tourist standpoint.
That would be very positive.
Bill, the one thing I would add to the discussion that I haven't heard anybody mention is we just keep talking about what FPL has.
Yeah.
We do have to buy power from FPL unless we went all solar, but there are other people who have street lights available, and maybe they're more expensive, but I haven't heard that we've checked with private vendors.
Now, I mean, my understanding is that the FPNL, they have a bit of a monopoly because they own the poles. And they're very picky about what goes on their poles, right?
I think we have to pay for the poles, don't we, Chelsea?
Any new poles that would be installed, we'd have to.
Yes.
But right now, our monthly bill pays for the electricity. We didn't pay to put the new poles in.
Right, but
But there are places where there aren't any poles. The study said there are spaces where we don't have any poles.
right.
So we are going to have to we're going to have to buy poles too.
And they run about $10,000 each
Yeah.
for FPL.
Original plan had 113 lights existing replaced, and they were adding 87 additional LED lights. And of those 87, 4 of them required new poles. So there were 83 additional poles on the boulevard, on Estero Boulevard that were available to hang a new light on.
And those are probably FPNL poles. Because I know that they're like,
FPL poles,
if
yeah.
Bob Light Company wants to put a pole on FPNL's, or a light on their pole, they won't let them.
Let's put it this way. FPL, we used to put holiday banners from Bay Oaks to the square. And since they did this hardening project, they say nothing is on their poles.
If we bought poles from someone else, would FPL not put them in?
I'm not saying necessarily to buy poles from someone else. I'm more concerned about the lights. There's, with all this technology, I've got to believe there's other amber lights out there as well, and we don't know whether they're cheaper or more expensive than what FPL offers. I don't know why we seem to stay inside this FPL box when I haven't heard that all the other alternatives are worse. They might be.
Have we ever purchased our own lights and then put them in ourselves up there, or do you gotta have, FPL has to put them up in there?
No, we could do that, but from an operational standpoint, the staff, and after a hurricane, we're in disaster recovery mode, not putting up lights and fixing lights. So I actually do meet tomorrow. The gentleman called me. He was recommended from FWC to reach out to me, and he's a sales rep, so I'm just gonna see what he's gonna pitch tomorrow morning, and said that he may be able to provide amber lighting. So we're putting feelers out there. Things aren't not happening.
What kind of amber light is it though? And what's it running on? 110, 220?
Couldn't tell you. I'll
Does
know
it need a
tomorrow.
ballast up there? If you can give me the specs,
No,
I
it's
can get a
an
price for you
LED.
that'll be cheaper than anybody in the world.
The amber lights are LEDs, I believe.
Yeah, they don't need a ballast.
No ballast.
LEDs don't need any kind of
Chip,
ballast.
yeah.
I just put one in my house, I had to have a ballast in it.
An LED?
LED light?
Sometimes they do. It all depends how the power runs into your house and so forth, yeah. And if you want to be able to dim them.
That makes more sense, yeah.
Well, so, I mean, there are some other advantages to having some of our own poles. As one is you could put them up like on crosswalks, specifically, and hang holiday banners on them. I know that's a huge perk, but that means, there's some ownership. Obviously, it wouldn't be the town to be putting them up or probably even maintaining them. There'd be somebody else, but maybe not FP&L. Yeah, at least to see what the free market has out there.
Charlie, you can send me exactly what kind of light they're looking for, the specs. I can get a price for you real quick.
Okay.
And you can't beat it.
Has anybody been to other beach towns and see what they do?
Well, that was brought up as well. Sanibel was brought up at that same council meeting to check out to see what lights they're using, and because my understanding is they have amber lights.
And my only experience was, going for a pre-dawn bike ride when it was really hot and I needed to get out and put some miles in. And what I noticed is, well, their streets seem to be further away from the beach than ours.
Yes.
I mean, they have a broader kind of area, but even away from the beach, the developments, the hotels and stuff that I went by, they all had the amber lights on the side of the building. I mean,
It's a lot darker on Sanibel.
yeah.
It's a lot less lighting.
And I don't know if they're dark sky certified or not. That might be an interesting kind of reach out to see if they are or not. But yeah, they're in a little different ballgame than we are, because there's some places where you could see a street light from the beach, and I don't think that exists in Sanibel. But even with that, their streets are darker than ours. Now, were you involved, were you asked at all to go through and try to figure out the costs of amber LEDs compared to white LEDs?
With FPL?
With anybody?
We did with FPL. It's millions of dollars cost. Yep. And that was reported in a Public Works monthly report a couple months ago.
I missed that. Chelsea, you said that they did give you pricing for
They gave
amber?
us a rough, round estimate because they can't price out such a large project. But, I mean, they gave round numbers, and those round numbers are very round. Millions of dollars.
So what would you remember just roughly?
Uh,
What were the two numbers?
Couldn't tell you. Not off the top of my head. Sorry. Long holiday.
Yeah, but the white lights the assumption is that they're free, right? That's what we've been heard banting around.
The only cost that the town would incur would be of the poles, the 4 poles.
And those are about 10 grand, as Pete just said.
Yeah. At the time the gentleman did the analysis, that part of the roadway was under construction, and so he didn't have the final set poles location. So it may be sufficient wherever the poles are currently, and we may only have to do 2, 1. We'd have to look at it.
Another comment that people made is it legal to put up these non-conforming lights on the street? Because I don't think it's legal for me to put them up in my house.
An owner, you mean?
Yeah, well, being beachfront or not doesn't really matter. If you put a light up and it's 3 houses, I think, away, if it's visible from the beach,
Oh, sure, anything visible from the
yeah,
beach.
so, and that includes streetlights.
Of course, yeah, and that's why they turn them off currently,
Right.
which would also continue in the future, and you'd have black spots against. That's the whole point.
For 6 months out of the year.
So the assumption from what you're saying is that for compliance with the white lights, some of them would have to be turned off to stay in compliance.
I would believe so. If high-pressure sodium lights and low-pressure sodium lights now are being turned off, then a 4,200 to 5,000 Kelvin LED light's it's gonna shine. Well, it already has, even from the side streets, right? That's where the disorientation came off of Sterling.
Exactly.
And that's not even withstanding that first plan using 4,000 to 5,000 Kelvin lights are well over the 3,000 Kelvin recommendation of the AMA.
I wonder if there's, the difference between $40,000 and millions is pretty significant. And when I saw the guy give the presentation, I thought there was a lot of holes in it. So I don't know really the consultant that the county had, how much, I guess, value I saw from that, from answering these kind of tough questions. But I am wondering a couple of things. One is, let's find a similar beach town, see what they do. Are there monies that could be available for this? Is there some kind of grant that we could get to be able to keep our town in compliance?
FWC has indicated that they would help search, as well as the Sea Turtle Conservancy, if there was costs involved. But, I mean, I'm concerned that FPL could come and just sort of roughly quote an estimate of multi-million dollars, when in fact, we're still wondering if it's part of the tariff program. I mean, isn't that strange, Chelsea, to you, that they would throw that number out to put up amber lights, but yet we don't know if we've got different stories about whether or not it's part of their program or not. Is there a formal document that says what's part of that tariff program?
I'm sure that there is somewhere. I haven't had the privy to read through it, but I can tell you that there was a ratio. It's 1 to every 4, and so you guys can look back in the Public Works. I did it in a monthly report, but they knew every so many feet there had to have been amber light to meet the 1 to 4 ratio of the Green Book standard. So they simply took that and multiplied it 6-mile long stretch, and they knew it cost X and X for pole and light. And
I've got the email up now if you want exact numbers.
yeah, sure, go ahead.
558 new amber turtle lights adds an estimated $7,000 a month to the bill. $7,740,000 upfront cash project to the town is the bottom line number that's in this email.
Repeat that, I'm sorry.
$7,740,000 is the first quote that Roger got. I think this is an email that Roger sent to the town council people, and it's got Chelsea's name on it too. But this was, I think, a quick and dirty question right after the council meeting when we said, and you've done stuff since then.
Yes.
But, which is why I say, why do we keep being bound to FPL? If we ask FPL, hey, can you provide us some alternatives? And they say, their answer is $7,740,000. I got to believe we can find somebody that would cost less than that.
Well, the other thing I have a couple of questions on that too is 558 new lights. And I know you need more lights, that the amber ones they diffuse differently and they're just not as visible. But we're a long, skinny island. And there are places where we're very congested and there's places where we're not. That it seems like there's certain places that really need to be illuminated. Downtown, Santini Plaza, some of those areas. But then there's a lot of stretches that just, I think, could be illuminated around crosswalks. And I don't know, if it's not part of the regulations, see how many you have to have, then illuminating the entire 6-mile road stretch you're talking about might be just more than we need. And I'd also think if they diffuse differently, then maybe we don't need as high of poles as you do when you put up the white lights, because they don't spread as far anyway. There's a lot of questions. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to, I think I'll have to come up with something and bounce it off you guys before I present it to council, so. I can, Roxanne, I can do that through, emails, through chat, or does that have to wait for another public meeting?
You're allowed to communicate with Chad all you want, or Chelsea, or me.
And can they communicate with members of MRF to approve a document, or has that got to be in a public
No,
meeting?
you can't be communicating between the members,
Yeah.
between meetings.
We can't vote on anything afterwards.
Well, I think that the town council knows our position on this, but the problem is the details.
Right.
It's And I think if we can come up with some options that, that make it safe and legal for compliance for turtles, that don't require $7.5 million, whether that's just fewer areas of the island that we actually work to illuminate, and trying to find different vendors. Those are all, I think, potential ideas that FPNL is not considering. Certainly not using somebody besides FPNL, they're probably not considering that. So those are things that we can kind of look at. But I think before we go forward, probably need a professional to really look at the possibilities.
Exactly.
How about the solar crosswalks with the flashing lights? I think that's a good idea. They're really visible at nighttime when people press that button when they want to cross.
I think that's the problem with the study that we were presented, is that they only looked at streetlights. They didn't look at other things to do about the crosswalks, and it really, you need to have a study where all those things are considered together, because maybe you don't need a street light there if there's a lighted
There's a good
crosswalk
crosswalk.
lighted
Right.
by other means. It wasn't the study that, anyway, I imagined that we were going to get. It was very limited.
And another thing, without a whole lot of power, and we're as good as solar, is when someone pushes a light, not only they get the flashing indicator, if lights came on, if it brightened up the crosswalks significantly just for that time when people cross. Because there's a lot of things like I did down the south part of the island, and I was driving with a friend. He pointed it out that they have all the reflecting pilings, what do you want to call them, around the islands, but they're so reflective that you can't see somebody very easily standing in them because they're so reflective. But the people who are standing there are probably wearing something inappropriate for being at a night like I'm wearing now. Okay, well, anything else you guys want to talk about the lighting thing?
No, but what you're going to do, Bill, is you're going to compose something that explains what we'd like to see.
Yeah, I'll compose. I mean, I can do that with Murph's permission, just to say that we, how much we strongly advocate the amber lights and the reason that we talked about here, and then tell them about options such as finding different vendors, because it seems to me the cost, even if this program provided free lights, right, amber, white, whatever you needed, if you're putting them on, $5 million for the poles, whatever it is, it's still going to be a significant cost, because it doesn't sound like they're covering the pole cost. They weren't with the white lights, and they're probably certainly not with the amber lights, right? So I can provide them a couple other options, but they're going to be kind of fairly uninvestigated options, because I don't, know alternative vendors, and I can suggest maybe some stretches that we can do a couple of miles instead of 6 miles. Right. That's a third of the cost. And if you can reduce it further by using a different vendor with a different pole, then you can probably maybe reduce the cost a little more than that, and then you can string holiday decorations, which I'm sure, because I know Public Works is looking for stuff to do.
Yeah, and I can, I'll forward to all you as well, I guess, through Chad. I mean, there's been countless cases. I can go down and share them with you, but of municipalities that have actually installed 4,000 and higher Kelvin LEDs, and they've actually replaced them.
Because they were too bright and caused problems.
Too bright, and it's like daylight.
Did you have any examples of,
Duluth, Minnesota, that has actually have gone
not
back.
not even beach communities?
Oh, no, not even beach communities.
Yeah.
No, this is just Chicago, Illinois. I mean, it's just too bright. It goes in your it comes, through your windows. It's unhealthy. Like I said, the physiological effects of interrupting your circadian rhythm. You can go down the list. It suppresses melatonin production, which is actually what inhibits tumors. So it's just the rich blue white light is too much to live underneath at night. I mean, basically is what these stories. I mean, when Duluth put a video together to show the problems they had. So it's, I think it's very serious. I mean, again, from a safety perspective and just the as well as the dark skies. The numbers, for artificial sky glow is currently we have, I don't know what the mix of high pressure and low pressure sodium is on the boulevard. Do you have any idea? But for a 3,000 Kelvin LED has 3 to 5 times, emit 3 to 5 times more than a high pressure sodium light and 15 times more than a low pressure sodium light, night light glow.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For dark skies. So again, if you like your stars at night, you're just, in my opinion, you're not going to get them anymore.
I think,
It's
one of the,
that bright. You're going to have a blazing corridor.
and I think, I mean, I think that certainly with Bruce, and I don't know how many council people you have to convince of this, but, I think all the talk about what the blue light does to people with insomnia and et cetera, is not much of a selling point. But one example that is very teachable is when a car is approaching you with their high beams on. The reason why they can't do that is because it blinds you. And we're talking about doing that essentially in parts of the street 6 months out of the year. Okay, well, I think I've got enough. I think I can speak for the committee, unless they say something really outlandish.
Bill, can I dovetail for a second?
Please.
For
You
a
didn't come
couple-
here to talk about lights?
Hi, as much as I would love to stay past 4:30 with you all. I just have a couple items for you. Last year, I don't recall how it came about, but staff was given direction to apply to TDC for 2 beach wheelchairs, with the big wheels. It was approved for this fiscal year. We've purchased them, we have them, but we don't have a program for them. We don't just want to leave them out there. So, in speaking with the town manager and Chad, the town manager encouraged that we send this to you all to come up with maybe a very simple program. Maybe it's a request, you call town hall during business hours and request it to be delivered the next day, or something of that nature, because you all are very creative.
Well, I'll tell you, we already looked into this.
Okay.
And Collier County, they have a program like this, and at Barefoot Beach, which is gated, they just leave them there, but it's a gated and patrolled kind of
Yeah.
community. In the other beach accesses, they lock them and they put a little number there
To call.
to call.
Okay. So if that's, it doesn't have to be anytime soon, but if that's something you all could come up with, then we could implement it. Hopefully, season is amongst us, so maybe we can get it implemented sooner than later. So that's the one item.
Before you leave that, I thought we had an offer from some of the beach chair vendors that they were willing to take care of them for us.
They may had, but I know council gave direction last year for us to buy 2 of them through,
Right, we would own them, but they would take care of them, and we would then give their number to people who call and are needing them.
and that is something, if that's the alternative that the committee would like to see, we can approach those vendors.
I just thought it saves the town money that we don't have to administer. They had volunteered to do it. They're already out there on the beach with equipment, and I thought they had volunteered.
We put things together, Public Works, we don't necessarily come up with programs, so that's, again, why we're looking to you all. And whatever you all suggest and recommend is kind of what we'll run with, so.
Do you remember hearing that, though?
I vaguely do, yes.
Okay, and if somebody could remember who it was that volunteered, which beach vendor it was.
So, that's the first thing, and I'll jump to the next one. One of the things I have realized with being a staff liaison to the Anchorage Advisory Committee, which Greg is so fortunate to be on both this committee and AAC, is there are a lot of topics that your committee here, Murph, and AAC are discussing. And I really feel like it would behoove us to have a joint session with you all, and AAC has entertained that idea and is open to meeting with you all. Some of the topics to discuss would be, I know Chad has approached me regarding some concerns of the no wake signs in the back bay. I think there's been mention of some like oyster beds, reefs, things of that nature. And AAC would have a concern because they are looking to expand the mooring field. Some things that you may have, marine resource, a concern about. There's the expansion of the field, there's the potential of an upland service, taking the upland services in-house, your thoughts on that. So there's really a lot of ideas and topics that can be intertwined between both committees that I would love for you all and AAC to have a joint session. Your days are pretty close. I know AAC was very willing to move their time to accommodate you all. So I'm just looking to see if you guys would entertain that notion.
You know, I think, I do know that there's some talk about trying to get us to merge as committees. And I'm not, I know that right now, and particularly starting next month, we're a little shy of people, but we're not shy of agenda items. So, if AAC meetings go on for what I was told, like an hour typically, our meetings go on for 2.
Depends off-season is like.
But this is a separate idea, Bill.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
This is not to get you to merge.
Okay.
no.
This
yeah.
is
see us
a
merge.
joint meeting between the two committees so that you could exchange concerns.
And just on topics that would, both committees would,
Yeah.
or have been discussing truthfully. And it's just to get all your minds together, them from a voting perspective, you all from your perspective here and what your background that you bring, and discussing those 2 or 3 topics and seeing how that would benefit the town.
Something that happened, this is back in the Larry Kiker days, that the council did, is they had a meeting with representatives from all the committees and town council all at once. Because like you said, there is some overlap between Anchorage Committee and MRF. There's also overlap between Crab Committee and MRF and the Crab Committee and BORCAB and, and CellCab and MRF with, because environmental education. So there's a lot of overlap. And that's something too that might be interesting to entertain. I don't know if Rexanne, that has any interest for you as a council liaison.
I'm not against it, but I think Chelsea's trying to get a particular question answered today, and that is, are you willing to meet with the AAC?
We are.
Okay. So
I
will-
am. Are you guys?
20 minutes later.
Well, 16 more minutes I ever have past 4:30. That's the whole goal.
Greg, are you willing to meet with both AAC?
I have a choice.
Did you get double credit for being there?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I will work with you and with Kathy Light on coming up with a date and time. I know you all have a lot on your plate right now, and they do too. They're looking to do a strategic plan for the mooring field. So I'm thinking it would be within the next 2 months or so. They do, like I said, they've got, it's peak season for the mooring field. You all are bombarded too. So I'll work with you, and then we can I'll coordinate with Chad, and we'll get an agenda put together and sent out. And hopefully we can all come together and come up with some great ideas.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Thanks.
Third thing, Chelsea. Did you say there's 3?
Not today.
No, you gave us beach chairs and meet with the Anchorage Committee. Oh, that was 2, okay. I thought you said 3, okay.
Chelsea?
Okay, well, since let's talk about Chelsea's things. I mean, the joint meeting, I don't think we need much discussion. And I understand the deal with the vendor, although this, if we have the chairs now, I didn't get the impression that there's that much use of the chairs in Collier County. So it seems to me we could create a sign, put them at Newton Park, put a lock on them, give them a call number, probably like Beach Patrol or something, and see if it creates a burden on the town. And if it does, then maybe look at other options. Because one potential problem.
I think the idea of using the beach vendor is that they might even deliver them to a different area. If you've got a handicapped person that's on the far north end, they don't want to go all the way down to Newton Beach necessarily to use a beach wheelchair. They need it in the north end.
They can go and
So-
pick it up.
Well, I don't know that they're easily transportable. They have very large wheels.
Yeah.
And if we had somebody who was saying, hey, I'll do it for you as part of my business, they already have the equipment, et cetera. It just seems like it's one of those things where there's an offer of a public-private partnership that we might want to take advantage of.
And, when we went through this last time, I appreciate the synergy of a public-private partnership, but there is a vendor on the beach who currently rents these. And they deliver them. So are then we competing with somebody who does this?
We have to have them available or we're violating the ADA.
Okay,
Right.
right.
So,
Yeah.
So we don't have any choice but to compete with them.
right, but it's a different service because they would deliver them where people want them. We're saying they are available here. The other thing is that if we do that, then that gives us a certain credibility to go to the county and say, you should do this at Bowditch and Lynn Hall. And then you've got 3 public park locations with them. Because if Collier County does it, Lee County should do it.
Something on the website, Town of Fort Myers Beach website, click here for ADA
Do you know what I mean?
information.
Yes, I do.
At our March meeting, we actually discussed that the beach vendors to provide chairs as part of their license.
That was a discussion, but then we went ahead and managed to get them, in essence, not free, it's never free, but the TDC paid for them rather than the town.
That's it. What else we talk about here?
Because this is, the TDC is a pretty long cycle. So if the county were to go and apply for TDC funds, they would be another year before they'd be able to put something on the other parks?
Well, and if the county isn't in compliance with their parks being ADA accessible, that's their problem. I represent the town.
Okay.
So I don't get involved with,
And we have one beachfront park, right? Well, there's 2 things. One is you want to be in compliance, and you also want to provide the service to people, a comprehensive service. So, but we have one park, so if we have the chairs there, we can bring that park into compliance.
That's Newton, right?
Yeah.
So we should just put them at Newton, lock them up, and do what you said.
The thing is that we can do that now,
Yeah, I think that's a
and
good
it's
idea.
the start of season now.
Can you park it and actually just put a lock with, let's say, like a credit card swiper on there?
We talked about that, but then we
There's no
didn't want to.
charge, but it identifies who's taking it, and if it's not, I guess, returned, you can charge that credit card as part of the loan agreement. I'm trying to make it as administratively easy as possible, I suppose.
Well, then we talked about too, if you are going to bring somebody to the beach that needs a wheelchair like that, usually you plan ahead. Oh, we're at the beach. Well, we need a beach wheelchair. Well, if you have somebody that needs beach wheelchair,
But we have one at our
you think
beach,
about.
and if they go to Lynn Cow and that, they need to go to the county and get their wheelchair.
But I also
or-
think,
or
that, yeah,
Rent this and that has
but
one.
it's kind of like the difference between what you expect from the service from a community and what you expect otherwise. So, if someone's coming on vacation and they're staying at a condo somewhere else, then is it our obligation to have a chair for them for the entirety of their stay that stays with them? Or is this like a day use thing for anybody who needs it at a public organization?
I think
you're now
day
getting into town attorney questions.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then also, like you said, there's another vendor that has them, so you for them to that. She's
Yeah.
got 2 or 3.
And we talked about that too, and one option is providing some kind of subsidy to the existing vendors.
A voucher, yeah.
But then that's a sticky thing about favoring one vendor over another.
No, I like
They
the
could
idea,
bid.
is we can have our public wheelchairs available, but I'll choose to maybe let them know that there is a place you can call and they'll deliver for you, but you're on your own doing that. So then they have 2 options now.
The other advantage of having it in Newton Park is that we keep wheelchair ramps at Newton Park. So it means that they're not getting somewhere where they have a seawall or they have a non-compliant beach access to get to.
The wheelchair ramps at Newton Park, I know are wide enough for a regular wheelchair. I don't know, see, a beach wheelchair is a different being. It's made to go up and down the beach on the sand. It's not necessarily made to go up a ramp. They probably fit, but I don't know that they do. They're pretty big.
Yeah, they are wide.
They're
yeah.
very
They are.
wide.
To
I don't
negotiate
picture
that.
them going up those wheelchair ramps at Newton Park. My understanding is they're to be used on the sand.
Well, we have the ramps and we have the chairs.
There you go.
We can answer that question.
Yeah, but you can move the big wheelchair
Sounds like a
down there
field trip,
yourself.
Chad, that we
and use the
go and
wheelchair.
test out the chairs.
I've seen
Throw
them
the
do
chair in the base
Oh,
truck
yeah.
and go. Yeah.
I would take a tape measure personally.
Well, and knowing how to, because, there are corners. I mean,
Yeah,
that
that's-
thing folds back as such a narrow stretch of beach there.
Well, the brilliant guy standing here next to me with the PhD just said, you take the beach wheelchair and you leave it on the sand, and then you take the person in their wheelchair, which is smaller, and you go down the ramp, and then you,
That's what I say
boom.
do now.
Right.
So you can still do it.
I mean, these are smart people. They already have to figure
It's
this
just,
out. because
I'm
it's a
not
challenge.
picturing
Yeah.
anything to chain the wheelchair
You're making this
to
too difficult,
on the
guys.
other side of the seawall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's probably a good place to leave a chair. I mean,
Right.
If you do to Newton Park, you can find a place that's sheltered.
Well, we talked about exposing it to the elements in the sun and.
And the other thing
making it
about
shelter.
the advantage of doing Newton Park is you can, because right now, I think like the bathrooms, right, have a time lock on them, which means you could also
Oh.
limit use during the night. Mind you, if they're locked up anyway.
Yeah.
I think what Chelsea's looking for is some policy direction. If, the policy is to make it available at the park, or whatever, give that direction and staff can figure out the details.
Chad, is there room to store these beach wheelchairs protected, in a protected manner at Newton? I'm trying to think of where
No.
they'd put them,
They would have to be outside. There's not enough room for them inside.
which is a disadvantage. They're going to be ruined before long. I think they need to be covered.
Again, policy directions, we can figure out the
Okay.
details.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make a little garage for them. I mean, like a storage shed kind of thing. I'm not talking about like my garage. I'm thinking. Okay, so let's, what I would recommend, we recommend to council is that they, in the short term anyway, they put the wheelchairs, secure them in Newton Park, try to find a way to protect them from the environment, and then have them on demand based on a phone call with a sign. And also encourage the county to do the same at their parks. That would be my recommendation.
I wouldn't mention the county.
Does it just because it answers one of your questions about, well, that's one spot on a 7-mile island. And if you get the rest of the counties, then that's 3 spots, and it's pretty well distributed. So, anybody have any other suggestion we should make, or should we make a motion on that?
Just put it on the website,
Right,
Let
put it
people
on the
know.
website as well.
information on the
as-
website,
right.
the number you need to call and where it's located, and, yeah.
And is the town going to offer to deliver those, or the people will have to go to
We
Newton?
talked about that. There's public works people that work weekends, and so it can be.
That's a significantly greater demand on the town's resources than just having them go to a spot and use them there.
I think you should just have them available there, and then let's see how it goes this season, get feedback from the town, and then we can come up with some other ideas for them, and then they can figure it out, actually.
Yeah, this sounds like a good first step.
At least starting, it's a step.
Make them available.
And it's fairly immediate. You can figure out how to secure them easily and get them in use this season, and then gauge demand.
That's right. And as long as we have them, we should do that.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we recommend to council that the wheelchairs that have been acquired from the TDC be placed at Newton Park, locked up with a sign and a number that people who want to use the chairs will call and have someone from town come and unlock them, take an ID, and then return them when they're done.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, I don't think the joint meeting really needs anything. The pollinator neighborhood, I think that falls on my plate. I haven't done anything, so. Should we get on to the Murphy?
Backup, didn't we?
We had a backup. Although, I have a recommendation for Murphy this month. I think we should give a Murphy to Shannon Mapes. I don't know if you know her. She's been very active with the town and coming up with some great programs that have been enacted that have helped our town significantly. And she's been tireless and does things she doesn't want to do, like public speaking. And I think we should give her a Murphy for next month.
Excellent idea.
Second that.
Yeah, I'll
It's a
third it.
motion. Yep.
Okay, make a motion that next month's Murphy is Shannon Mapes.
Second it, Greg.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Are you abstaining?
I think I have to.
Shannon, you're going to make us cry. You're leaving.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so let's get,
There's something about, while we're on Murph, I'd like to bring up something. I wanted to take a photo of people being respectful of our wading birds on the beach, because oftentimes people chase them. But I don't know how close is too close, because I do have a photo, and I was going to present that today, and then I looked at it, and I think that they were still making the birds uncomfortable.
How far away were you?
How far away do we want people to be before we say they can stand there and watch the birds and they're not messing with them?
When they start to move away, I guess. When they start to get nervous and move.
I think they don't, you can tell that they want to be hunting, and then there's people watching them. And if the people would just step back a bit, and I thought if I could get a picture of that, we could put it in and say, we give these people a Murphy, even anonymously, give them a Murphy because they are being respectful of our wildlife by staying X feet away. Well, how many feet do we want them away?
I know, I've seen, especially when you have a lot of, like the sanderlings, that people will walk in the water where a lot of people like to
Right.
walk, and there'll be this arc of birds that walk through a flock, but they're not flushing them.
Right.
But they just walk around them and then go back to their normal feeding. I like the idea of a Murphy. I mean, a recommendation is a little tougher. I think, just not flushing birds is probably more than we can hope for a lot of people. But if you get a picture,
And I think what I'd like to do is to do it anonymously, because rather than singling out any one or two people, we can say thank you to all of the people who are respectful of our wildlife. And then also, I don't have to ask them who they are. I can just take a photo looking at their backs.
FWC's website says the general rule is to stay 300 feet from a nest, but they don't seem to have
Right.
other guidelines.
so, and much as I understand, part of the Murphy Award is to award somebody for something and have them set an example for other people.
All right, so then I'm going to have to pick some people.
Because the last month's was kind of anonymous. That
Which
was
one was
the,
that?
that was
That
a
was the-
Fairview Isle
Oh, right,
thing.
that got that whole
And I didn't have any
community.
I looked on the websites, I couldn't find like a specific contact that I could get a hold of and ask him about the program. So I just put it in there and didn't have a person, didn't have a picture.
Okay. All right, so I'll work on that. And then also, do we want a photo of somebody using one of our reusable bags as a Murphy winner? We can put that in the,
Sure.
yeah,
That idea.
we can show that, yeah.
I've seen lots of homeless guys with them.
No, but, well, why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah,
They use them
okay. All right.
as a pillow.
Okay. Anything else about the Murphy?
No.
Okay, so member items and reports?
I just have one. Did you remember when we had Megan and her, I don't know who it was, that came up and talked about
The
sunscreen?
Oh, yeah,
sunscreen,
right.
And
yeah,
Megan said she
Heil,
could
yeah.
get in her wetsuit and take a picture of the reefs, how they're doing. Did she? Yeah, and she said she could see how the one at the Mound House was doing and compare them to, the one all the way at the Dolphin Inn at the end of the canal, how that one's doing. So I didn't know if you had wanted to get like a update and see if she would do that, because she
Yeah, I don't remember her saying that, but if
She
she would,
kinda
of course we should
volunteered.
ask
She
her
said,
to.
yeah.
Sure,
kind of volunteered and said, I could do that.
yeah.
Like, she does underwater photography yeah.
That would be very interesting, yeah.
Because I know you'd asked me a couple of times, and I took some horrible pictures and more of a visual
That,
report.
that's kind of the engineer in me. It's like we're putting all these in, how are they working? But I realize it's kind of tricky. I think that you said you have a camera or something too, that you could take pictures.
How much light do you need for that, Greg, though? If your camera, like how deep will you get a photo,
Well,
can you go when you get a photo that's
On the
visible?
golf side, you need a lot of light, 'cause it's hard to get any pictures in the golf, but like on Atlantic, like the first 20 feet, I don't use any lighting. I use amber lighting because it's much more prettier, comes out much more natural. As soon as you get 30 feet, you start losing light. 60 feet, it's gone. You got to always have lights and strobes. You'd get green shots. I mean, if you've probably done it then, it's greens, hazy, kind of spooky, cool. But the problem when you use lights, it will reflect off every particular mark in front of it. So you get nothing what's called scatter, and it's just like crap. So
I've seen that with underwater flash. It
yeah,
doesn't work.
because it's going to reflect off very particular. So you have to have clear water to get good shots.
Well,
Back bay is bad.
just to get to
Yeah.
what's on the lower.
So you
those
time it as high
areas.
tide coming in, that's how you get your better shots, because you have clean water coming in. You never want to take your shots, when it's black tide or at low tide. That's going to be the worst setting. You want to really test the water, how bad it is, you do it at low tide. You want to test to see how clean your water is, you do it at high tide, because obviously you have clean, fresh water coming in from the Gulf.
Well, those reefs are right underneath the dock, so they're pretty shallow. We should get a good photo then, right?
If it's bright enough, because, oh, yeah, flashes, yeah. Well, we just kind of want to see if there's barnacles or, like you said, the green. Algae.
GoPro down there and check it out.
Is that what she said? GoPro? That wasn't.
it was.
Yeah, just to see. I mean, there's one, you can easily get the ones at Mound House and the one at Travis's at the Dolphin Inn, just lean under there and do it. But then the other ones are all private docks, so you'd have to ask
There's one
them.
out Pink Shell too, right? Is there one right there? I see this
Pink
guy with a whole
Shell?
bunch of crates underneath his dock.
I haven't noticed that one.
Right next to Pink Shell, that dock, look at it, there's like 16 of them, man. This is a
I think there's one
monster set of crates right underneath his dock.
was it Snookbite?
Snookbite has some in there.
Snookbite has them, yeah.
so there's
Yeah, that
those
would be
three.
so interesting to see what's growing on there.
Yeah,
But they gotta be at least 3-6 months before you wanna try taking a picture.
yeah, well.
Marginal.
Some of them
Travis's
have been there for a
over
year, yeah.
Oh, we can,
And then the
yeah.
one, I don't know when we put those ones in at the rest of.
Is anybody taking pictures? Is that what you're saying?
That's what we
So we
were
don't-
wondering,
wondering-
because, Bill kind of wanted to track it.
And it's like, from what our understanding is that the ones on the flow, like in the back bay or at the end of canals, they grow a lot faster than the ones that are at the end of canals.
Why don't you email exactly their location? When I got some time, I'll take my GoPro and just see what I get. Like, try.
You could eat
Mm-hmm.
the Mound House. you can
The
see
Mound
it.
House is, yeah, it's easy. It's
then-
right on their dock.
And then what's the other
Yeah,
Snook?
if I can get a
Right on the end,
kayak in there, it might
Snookbite.
help me better, and then I can get
Yeah.
over there, and I can just hold my camera underneath that way too.
And then,
I have a great big wide angle one that's got the big,
is there a
Lens.
viewfinder? Because, dock, so.
I'm pretty good at guessing. I do that a lot. I just want to do sharks. I don't like getting too close.
Yeah, just, make a note just make a note of when and where you took the pictures and let us know, and we'll,
In time, yeah, because
and-
I try to do it high noon, try to reduce the issue with the light having angles, which gets more reflection. I'll get underneath the dock, or it's a dock, right? I'll try it.
If Travis has a floating kayak launch, and he'll let you use any kayak. That's what we used to use to do water testing. And then you could get everybody else's on the, because I went up to him and got them, but my pictures were horrible. But then because I didn't have an underwater camera, I was just trying to get it, which you can't, so. If you went that way and took his kayak, and then you could get all of them down there. Just an idea. He's really friendly. He's not gonna care.
I think doing a lot of, my GoPro's old, and you can look at it.
Oh,
the
yeah.
camera out, and then
Communicate, you want to do?
And then
Yeah.
see it,
it's
right.
it's an old GoPro, too. Yeah, well, let us know what you do with that, Greg. I should be back up here in the mic. Okay, anything else?
No, that was it.
That's your last member item and report? Okay, Greg? Steve?
Nothing to report, but I did notice that the fertilizer ordinance wasn't on as a current item. Do we know where that stands right now? Because I know that's something we were hoping to move along before the council changes.
Yep, it's been given the direction to get to council.
So you've written the model, you've written.
Going to the lawyer right now to,
Okay. Double
for
check.
legalese proofing.
We've bounced it off of the powers we're going to bounce it off of, and we're just now refining the wording so it and go to council?
Yeah. Is that, what's the question, sorry?
Well, I know that we were stuck on for months that we were going to take this thing, and the attorney wanted to send it to IFAS, and
Yeah, so, y'all got direction from FDEP that everything's okay. I heard back from, IFAS, what their major direction was to include, the, testing before using any phosphates in fertilizer. FDACS responded that they would welcome commenting on the fertilizer ordinance, so they're going to get it again and get any comments back. So it's hopefully going to be in front of council for the next MNP meeting.
anything else, Steve? Nope. Mayor Rose?
I have nothing else, Bill.
Okay, well, I have a couple things. One is you're talking about the marine safe. Megan Heel said that there's going to be a What is Marine Safe talk on the 15th, 4 p.m. at Bayfront Bistro, if anybody's interested in that. Also, I think we need to deal with Justin. He hasn't been around for a while. He doesn't seem to be interested. So I would make a motion that we remove him from MRF for too many unexcused absences.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, so one more seat we have open. And then last, I just want to issue my personal thanks to Shannon for her service. You've been the driver of our agenda. We're going to have to figure out stuff to talk about now when you're not around. Just, you know, your selfless attitude and your dedication to do what's right, you're leaving this island a better place than you came. Thank you very much.
Bravo, Shannon.
Okay, then with that, public comment? Okay, so set agenda. The only thing is the option for having a guest speaker for the water quality. I think that's the only thing I see changing the agenda. Does anybody else?
Now, I'll let you know about that as soon as I contact Mr. Judy and get a response.
And I don't know if we want to put the wheelchair, because we already know what we're going to do, and we'll give it to council, so I don't think it has to show up on our agenda necessarily. Okay. Okay, with that, I'll make a move that we adjourn the meeting of the Marine Resources Task Force.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.
All right. Record time.
And if you know anybody who wants a free tree from the town, Chad will be there at Bay Oaks on January
Oh, that's right.
17th.
Yes. So,
Free tree. What a deal. Free native
Shannon,
tree.
why are you going?
Mary Rose, I did find the distance. They say 500 feet on FWC for Flushing.
500 feet.
That's why my answer to you is you have to